Alrighty. Interesting and hilarious story coming out of Hollywood right now, as there seems to be some woke on woke infighting happening, particularly when it comes to this director that had a meltdown and went on a tirade against Hollywood. Till director Chinonye Chukwu accuses Hollywood of racism and misogyny. As you do, because this wouldn't be the first time that we've heard such things or accusations about Hollywood. However, in today's story, I'm going to be playing a little bit of the devil's advocate for Hollywood, even though I hate to do so. And I'm also going to try to see if her points are valid at all. So without further ado, let's get straight into this story. I'm going to share my opinion. Please feel free to share yours in that comment section below. Now, when it comes to this particular story, there has to be some prelude here that I want to skip over and get straight into what sparked this off. So it began when Chukwu was passed over for the Best Director nomination at the 95th Academy Awards for her work on Till, a biographical drama based on the life of Mamie Till-Bradley and by extension her son Emmett Till. Now, for those of you who don't know about the story of Emmett Till, it was a tragic story that happened in the 50s. That was a really dark time in American history. And if you didn't know about it, well, here it is. The summary of it all is that in 1955, Emmett was brutally lynched in Mississippi for supposedly harassing a white woman named Carolyn Bryant Donham. And what made this story even worse is the fact that in an act of outrageous injustice, the murders were let off the hook by an all-white jury. So this is the photo of Emmett Till, the kid that was killed because he was forcefully accused of something that he didn't do. However, this case has led to something good in America because it spearheaded something beautiful. Till's case continues to be a textbook example of the virulent racism prominent in the South during the 1950s. It helped spearhead the civil rights movement, and the laws eventually codified and cemented by the Republican Party, not the Democratic Party, the Republican Party in 1964, after the breaking of the Democratic Party's record-long filibuster, which was designed to try and stop said laws from passing. You're not going to see this story in the 1619 Project. Neither will you hear this part of the story in Hollywood, or neither will you hear this part of the story in access or mainstream media. The gravity of the film story wasn't enough to bring it over the finish line at this year's Academy Awards. However, after failing to net her win, Chukwu went on the offensive, accusing entire Hollywood establishment of the same recycled talking points so prominent on the race-obsessed left-wing sphere of politics. Now, the question is, did the film, or was the film justified for her getting a nomination? I really don't know about that. All I can tell you is that when it comes to Rotten Tomatoes, well, people like the movie. It had a 97% audience score, but when it comes to a movie with such gravity, I don't think anybody's going to be out there trying to criticize a tragic situation or movie based on a tragic situation in a dark time in America. Nobody's going to be criticizing it. However, here's the bigger problem, and here's the bigger issue. This movie had a budget of $20 million, but how well did it do in the box office? It needed to make at least $50 million to actually be able to say it made some sort of a profit. But what did it do? It made $9 million in the US after opening in over 2,000 theaters. Nobody saw this. So how would you expect it to get nominated when nobody saw it? The movie wasn't impactful in culture or pop culture. It wasn't impactful in the community, neither was it impactful worldwide. Nobody got to see this movie, so why would it get nominated? However, it didn't stop her from going to say, we live in a world and work in an industry that are so aggressively committed to upholding whiteness and perpetuating an unbiased misogyny towards black women, regardless of the fact that many black women have won the Oscar Awards in recent times, and many black women have been nominated this year, and many people of color have been nominated this year. She began going on so far as to capitalize blackness, as you do, as is custom with identity politics driven leftists. Whiteness, however, wasn't capitalized because this is how it always goes. And this is the funny thing. You continue to accuse Hollywood of being ran by white supremacists, yet you continue to work for said white supremacists. Why not take your trade and move it to Nollywood? Nollywood nominates and votes all black people year in, year out, because it's an African industry, so take it there. But you're accusing white people, or you're accusing Hollywood of white supremacy, yet you still work for them. Hence, this tells me that you really don't care about what you're saying. You really care about the dineros, the cheddars, the monies, and you're just virtual signaling like most of these woke elites from Hollywood usually do. And yet, she continued, I'm forever in gratitude of the greatest lesson of my life, regardless of any challenges or obstacles. I will always have the power to cultivate my own joy. Good for you. And it is this joy that will continue to be one of my greatest forms of resistance. Viva la resistance! I wonder what she means by resistance. How are you in resistance when you're still working for the same set people? I will never understand. It is unclear what Chukwu meant by resistance, especially in the wake of massive changes to the way Oscar conducts its business, which was originally driven by accusations of white supremacy. For instance, in 2015 and 2016, hashtag Oscar So White was one of the left's favorite hashtag, a reference to a supposed cabal of white supremacists running the entire operation from top to bottom. Now, I can guarantee you, I bet my bottom dollar, the reason why this whole action was sparked up is because the directors, I can bet you the directors this year were all straight white male. If they weren't, she wouldn't claim misogyny. And if they weren't white, she wouldn't claim racism. But it's because they're straight white male, even though they deserve it, it doesn't matter to the woke mob that it is based on meritocracy. They just want you to push diversity and representation. And regardless of the fact that Hollywood has put these things in place to appease the woke mob, it still isn't enough. To counter the increasing volatile claims of racism, the Academy changed its entire modus operandi, bending the knee to the fascistic diversity and inclusion demands, which ended up creating the exact opposite effect. Among the many outrageous changes was the demand that at least one of the lead actors or supporting actors needed to be a member of a marginalized group, with similar demands placed on the department's head. So many companies have been forced to do this in their movies, push diversity and representation. And where has it led them? Crashed. As we keep on saying, Hollywood fails after Hollywood fails after Hollywood fails. And even the Oscar, the ratings crashed. They've been having bad ratings after bad ratings after bad ratings, and the worst ratings even happened, I think, last year or 2 years ago, where people refused to watch it. They've lost viewers in the million. Hence why Hollywood probably starting to realize that that course of direction just don't work. However, does this director, if I may call her that, because we're not sure these days what a woman is, does this director have any leg to stand on with her complaints? Well, if you take a look at what Hollywood has been doing recently, particularly when it comes to the whole Mindy Kaling Velma thing, you'll find out that on that show, the producer of that show had 3 failed shows prior. And each time she had a show that failed, or a program that failed, or a series that failed, they promoted her and gave her a bigger series to do. The same thing has happened with Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power. The directors had a failed program before, failed series, but what did they do? They gave them multi-billion-dollar contract to direct what? A massive project by Amazon. This is the thing that Hollywood does. So she expected that regardless of the fact that her movie is a box office flop, that they should still reward her, because this is what Hollywood has been doing with many other directors. Not given the fact that some of the directors that they've been giving things like Mindy Kaling are people of color, she's still accusing them of white supremacy. Now it seems that all in all, Hollywood might be, and I say might be because they still cuckoo for Cocoa Puff, starting to realize that that cause of action is not the right cause of action, because no matter how many times they try to virtual signal, no matter how many times they try to change the rule and bend their knee to the woke mob and push for diversity, inclusion, and representation, the woke mob will always attack them, because you can never, like I said before, ever be woke enough.